Welcome to the show, everyone. Today, if you are listening to this on the podcast, we did do a video. Come on over to jjflizanes.tv to meet Dr. Kelly Turner. You heard her name several times. She's been on the show. She has not been on the show before, but someone who works for her has, Tara Flanagan. And we talked about Radical Remission. And this is a book that Nisha talks about a lot, and every cancer patient needs to know her books about radical remission. If you're finding us here on YouTube and you don't know me, I'm a producer and an empowerment strategist. So what that means is I come to the table with education and knowledge and my own point of view about things. So I'm going to talk. And if you don't like me, I'm okay with that. So if you're coming because you want to have more of Dr. Kelly, where can they find more of just you?
Radicalremission.com.
And there you go. All right. So welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thanks for having me, JJ. I love your energy. It's very infectious.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the people who have been listening to me for almost 8 years would agree. Some of them, not everybody loves me, and that's okay. We're not for everybody, but I take a very strong position, and the position I take is the one that you have talked about and researched and wrote about and made a docuseries about, talking about surviving cancer at all odds. And I've made people watch the Heal movie to see your part in it, to really understand that this is not just JJ being a woo-woo, law of attraction, energy, crazy person, that this is, you, when I read your book, and I love it, and everyone needs to have it in their hands and give it to anyone they know that has a cancer diagnosis, both books.
Thank you.
But what I'll say is, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, you did what helps me. And you did something I would never have the patience to do, which is like, I'm reading your book going, yeah, I know this. I've known this. It's more of, I would never taken the time to do the research or to make it more scientific and to document it, which for a lot of people is what they need to really understand what we're talking about. And me, I'm like, no, it's just energy. No, energy is emotion. Emotion is, so I'm like, yeah. I could have written this book. Not really. I couldn't have written this book because I would have never done what you did. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for complimenting all energy medicine and emotional healers and workers and people who have more right-brained information and have a deep knowingness about what we talk about, putting it into a respectable scientific book that you can then feel good about sharing with anybody, no matter what they believe. So thank you so much for your work.
Well, you're very welcome. And I would say, I didn't make these things up. This is just what I observed as a researcher. So thank you and all of the people that I've studied for, just being an open book and letting people like me interview you and study you and simply catalog what you're doing. I mean, your response reminds me of what so many people write to me and say, I'm a radical remission survivor. Reading your book was like reading my diary. I did these 10 things 20 years ago and I got well. And it's so affirming to see it written down from a researcher, because it makes me feel like I wasn't crazy doing the things I did to get well. So it sounds like you're having a similar reaction, and that's great. It's like the best compliment a researcher can get when someone writes and says, yep, I read that book and it's like I could have written it myself. And that just shows me the research is accurate. So,
well, I love that. And what do you want to tell people a little bit about your story and how you even got here and why you decided to research this?
Definitely. Yeah. So I, like most people, was touched by cancer at a very young age. The first 2 deaths in my life were due to cancer. My uncle died when I was 8, and then a very good friend of mine died when we were 16. So he was 16, I was 16, and he died of stomach cancer, which was horrible and traumatic and sad and awful. And then when I finished my undergraduate degree at Harvard, I was trying to figure out what direction to take in life and what I wanted to do. And I decided I wanted to work with cancer patients and help them in some way. And so I got my master's in counseling at UC Berkeley, and I was counseling cancer patients, and life was good. And life was a little depressing because many of them were passing away, but life was good. And then, a lightning bolt came and paused my life because I came across a case of radical remission, and I just kind of froze. And I said, I want to meet this man. I want to meet this man who was sent home on hospice care to die and turned around his stage 4 kidney cancer 30 years ago. I want to meet him. And so that's sort of what happened. I went home that night and searched PubMed, pubmed.gov, which is kind of like the Google search engine for published medical journal articles. And I found that there were over 1,000 of these cases of radical remission. And I said, well, this is ridiculous. There's 1,000 of these incredible, miraculous healings in peer-reviewed journals, and I've never heard of them. And I work in this field. Like I work in this field. And the only time I'd ever heard of them is a doctor here and there being like, oh yeah, that's my miracle case. That was a fluke, you know? And what I realized with these 1,000 cases is that all of the doctors in their own little corners of the world were dismissing their 1, 2, or 3 cases as flukes because nothing in their medical training could explain why these people could possibly get well. And I, as someone who is fascinated by how things work, I said, well, are we really just going to leave it at that? Are we really just going to say, glad you got better, don't really care how you did it? Like, no, that's not how I operate. So I went back to my professors and I said, I want to study these people that no one else is studying. And I want to ask them what they did to heal, because their doctors didn't do anything after they sent them home on hospice care. So clearly, I'm like, maybe they did nothing. Maybe it was just random, spontaneous, their bodies changed overnight. But I had a hunch that maybe they actually had done something. So that's where the drive for the research began. And here we are 15 years later and 1,500 cases later and 10 countries later. And radical remissions happen. They happen across all cancer types in all countries. And they're not as rare as we think.
One of the, I didn't hear about your book until Dr. Nisha told me about it. I don't have any cancer directly in somebody distant in the family did just pass away of stomach cancer, but I don't, not a close relation. And I don't have anybody sort of in my immediate, I've had clients that have come out of having cancers. And I don't know if you've heard of the book Messages from the Body, but it's sort of my Bible for looking up any ailment or physical disease or problem and looking at the possible emotional, mental root cause of that. Doesn't mean we don't do something physical about it, but it's sort of identifying what correlation it has with the emotional, with your belief system, with your subconscious. And so I would look up, studies of people with cancer and saw that, and what Nisha had claimed is the ultimate disconnect. And when I saw Heal and then obviously read your book and wanting to share it with everybody, what I just find is that there are a certain amount of people who are attracted to, well, it gives them hope. And that's great because it's to show people what's possible. But at the same time, there are things in this book, and I think things that people have done in here that require a great leap of faith and a dramatic change in lifestyle. Yeah. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. Correct. And so I'm just curious along your path, because I know you also have a program and you help people through the 10 different things that you have researched. The first book, Everyone is 9, the 9 factors. And then Kelly came out with the 10th one. So, and then here's the 10th one. So now there's 10. And I know that you have your own program that addresses these different areas of life. But what is your, as you were talking to people, and if you were to, I know there was the 9 that they all had in common that they did. If you had to use any other words to describe their personalities or to describe the change, I tell people cancer is a wake-up call, and cancer is a messenger that is telling you to change something. And most people think of cancer as an outside, like, oh, it's happening. It's something from the outside that's not me, that's now in me, and I have to get it out. And the perpetuation of that energetic disconnection, I think, keeps people in the same state of being, in the same state of their life, their lifestyle, their belief systems, their emotions. They don't learn anything. When we bring it into the acknowledgement of this is my body, and in Chinese medicine, cancer and tumors doesn't really exist. A tumor is stuck energy. It's still your body. It's not something that we have to cut out. So if we look at it from that position, and then we use cancer to change your life, to be the wake-up call, to say, hey, I have to change something. Are there any, as you were talking to all these people who had this, would there be, from your opinion only, not necessarily from theirs, from an observer perspective, would there be any adjectives or ways in which they were in the world, or how they might be different emotionally, energetically, how they present themselves, like one thing they had to give up? Would there be anything that comes to mind for you?
Willingness to change. That if you asked me to describe a radical remission survivor in one sentence, I would say someone who's willing to change almost every aspect of their life. And the 10 healing factors that they embark upon are 10 different areas to change, right? You have the physical ones: diet, herbs and supplements, exercise. And then you have the 7, mental, emotional, spiritual ones, but all of them require deep transformative change. And if you have someone who doesn't really want to change, who doesn't really want to go through perhaps discomfort of change to turn your life upside down, they probably won't become a radical remission survivor. And that's simply just because, as an observer, that's one thing they all have in common. They're willing to make these 10 changes, and these 10 changes are dramatic. So if you're not willing to make changes, that you wouldn't fall into that group. That's how I would describe it.
I want to highlight that you said out of the 10, 3 are physical and 7 are mental, emotional, and spiritual. Just one, in case those of you have not seen the Heal movie, the Heal documentary, Dr. Kelly is in that movie, and she lists them all up on the board and highlights the fact that at the time it was 9. So there were 6. Now there's 7, right? 7 of them are mental, emotional, and spiritual, not physical. So yes, there's diet and exercise changes, but we're talking about a deeper, and it doesn't even have to be, when I say deeper, people think that they have to go to therapy and maybe their energy around talking about their problems or their traumas in their life means I have to sit in that energy. And my message, of course, is the opposite of that. No, we want to get in there, figure out what it is, and we want to clean it up. And you want to be in a new energy. That's the whole point. So yeah. I know this book has changed lives. I know that in Nisha's program, all the TAP members, all the doctors, everybody has to have this book, read this book, tell it to their patients. It's part of, really, it's in their cancer box, right? So it's, there's a lot of people who are sharing your work. Since you've been doing this, what have been some of the unexpected new learnings or opportunities or things you didn't think were going to come out of this?
Well, the 10th factor, I wasn't expecting, right? So the whole reason I wrote the second book, I could have called it the 10th factor. Instead, we called it Radical Hope, but Radical Hope is really the reason I published it, is to tell people, there really is this 10th thing that they're all doing, and that's exercise, or more appropriately called movement, which I'm sure you have a lot to say because you're such an interesting person to talk to about this, JJ, because you come from a strong physical background with the physical training, and yet you've moved so deeply into the emotional and spiritual world. And that is honestly the route that many radical remission survivors take. They often start their healing journey from a place of, fear and fight or flight and despair. And it's the worst moment of their life, right? And they start by taking these baby steps with diet, and they find someone like Nisha, and they get their supplements and their herbs going. And then they work on their movement and exercise. And we'll talk a bit about why it's, there was a second book. But after those 3 physical things are moving, that's often when they turn and say, what else? What else do I need to look at here? And that's when you get these 7 rich, beautiful areas of personal inner work, right? Increasing positive emotions, releasing suppressed emotions, including trauma, deepening your spiritual connection practice so that you can change your physiology with those 20 minutes of meditation or prayer. The list goes on. This idea that you start with the physical and you move towards the deep inner work, and the process doesn't stop with the first 3. It can't. I have yet to interview someone who's had a successful radical remission and just done diet, herbs, and exercise. I have not met them. If you know them, send them my way. I'd be curious to study them, but they don't stop there. They have to do the emotional, spiritual work, because I also believe we are made of energy. I mean, I think any physics teacher would agree with you that we're all vibrating. Our atoms are vibrating. We are producing energy right now. Our heartbeat emits electromagnetic energy. We are truly electric, energetic beings. And this idea that thoughts have a vibration and thoughts have energy is a fact, right? It's a fact that we can measure this in scientific laboratories. So the idea that, yes, how we move our body, the stuff we stuff into it through food and supplements, is going to change the body. That is important. But we're energy, right? So what we're doing energetically is just as important, if not more important, because energy is moving much faster than the density of, a carrot. That makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I've been on an interesting path since meeting Nisha, very interesting path. And in terms of getting into this sort of cancer space more, and then being in that field with people, and seeing who's ready and who's not ready. Like you said, someone who's willing to make change, willingness to change, and to see people who are, and to see the lessons. And to also, when you said energy, and it's not, yeah, I start from physical, but I've always been emotional. That's the interesting thing, is between being a Pisces. And by the way, do you know what your sun sign is? What's your
Uh,
birthday?
is my sun sign, like what's
Yeah.
my astrological sign? Cancer.
Okay.
Ironically.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, that's not what it means. You're a crab,
Right.
but I'm a
Right.
fish,
I'm a
but
crab.
we're both water. So this like emotional piece is part of, even before personal training and the acting, like being expressive, knowing that there was importance of feeling self-expressed, of almost allowing all the emotions their time to come out. And it wasn't, again, that's subconscious. I just know it felt good to express. It felt good to give a range of expressions, to get to have, I think that's why, it's one of the reasons I wanted to act, was because it's almost like therapeutic to be in someone else's life and not in your own circumstances, and allow yourself full expression. I mean, that's one of the best things about it. And it's funny because it always seems like a disconnect until now. Until now, it's been like, oh yeah, I had an acting thing. I was a musical theater major, and and then personal trainer, and they don't connect until you put them together, and we bring you to now, which is the benefit of allowing yourself the space and the safety and the freedom to express the emotions inside of you, which most of us don't have.
Right.
And
if
even
you don't express them, they get stuck in the body. And then you need your personal trainer and your chiropractor and all the other things, because your emotions are literally stuck in your body, either in your sore back or your sore neck or your joints and your muscles that are tight, right? Like Radical Remission survivors have taught me, if we don't release suppressed emotions, especially emotions from the past, they will get stuck in the body, and they will start to cause, less optimal functioning of the body, right? Whether that's just simply pain, right? Skeletal muscular pain, or poor circulation, or, nerve damage or something that, or from a Chinese medicine perspective, you block a meridian long enough, that energy is going to build up and it's eventually going to form a tumor. It's like, it can't, the traffic jam can't get through. And so something's going to bulk up, and you'll eventually get to see it under a microscope. So that's the Chinese medicine theory, but it speaks to what you're talking about.
That was a beautiful explanation. Something new I haven't thought of is identifying the tumor with the meridian. Didn't even think about that. That's a new one for me. Thank you for that. So when it comes to looking at all these physical things too, what I've seen is, especially when they're on protocols like Nisha's or anybody, or whatever protocol they're on, that if we don't change, to me, that's where, I've been teaching law of attraction, and it's quantum physics. And again, to me, I see it. It's not a theory. It's a thing. It's a real thing, but because people can't see it, they don't understand the mechanics of how it works. And it's like, you have this container, which is, let's say, your energy field. And if your energy field is full of negative emotion and anger, and it's resistant, and it's hard, and it's tight, and it's contracted, and you're trying to do all these physical things, it's like you're fighting yourself up a hill trying to get this done. And it's almost like I take the stance. It's a dramatic stance, but I'm taking it. I'm claiming it. I tell people, if you only knew the power of your emotions, you'd work on nothing else.
Yeah.
Because if it's between doing all the right things physically and not addressing the energetic, emotional components, and for any man listening to this, please, if this triggers you at all or feels icky to you, or switch the word emotions for stress. Because for all of you guys, you claim stress, you're okay to be stressed. It's like a badge of honor. So just if emotions are like, then just say stress, holding stress in your body, keeping stress for years and years, repress stress. Okay. If emotions doesn't jive with you. But that's when I've gotten to the place where people who all do all the right things, who are control freaks, who do all the right things, but their energy around it isn't supportive. It's like, we can do so much more if the energy is open, if we're in alignment, if our body and our cells are feeling. I mean, Bruce Lipton's been on the show several times, right? So talking about energy and moving towards, it's that simple. We're either when we're in alignment, when we're feeling good, when we're clear of emotions, when we focus on creates positive momentum and excitement and joy and passion, our body wants to move towards that. It opens up all systems all systems wanting to move forward towards the picture in my head. But if I'm thinking about all the negative things, and if I'm resistant and crunchy and triggered, and and I'm carrying that all around with me, then the body shuts down. It doesn't want to help heal you. That is not a state of healing. So what I love about, again, all your work is that you validate where I stand, because of all, and people who just, because I've dealt with clients of mine, personal training clients who've had cancer. Most of them just had it like one time, but it's looking at their patterns and being able to say which of their patterns of, okay, well, this resulted in cancer, and this resulted in a thyroid thing, and this resulted like in back pain, and this resulted in like, when are you going to deal with your stress? When are you going to deal with your emotions? Because you can go get surgery and take it out, but you take you with you, and you're just going to repeat that same pattern and maybe back where you are. So again, just, I love that. When did you write this book? I mean, I feel like I know it's not new.
Which one?
The first one.
2014, and then Radical Hope 2020.
Yes.
I will just say on that last thought of yours, the one danger about having people think that their emotions cause their cancer is that we also know that chemicals in this world create cancer, right? We know that nicotine causes cancer. We know that radiation exposure causes cancer. We know that Agent Orange causes cancer. And so there is this sort of danger in the mind-body world of people taking on unfounded guilt about the cause of their cancer. And so what I always say in my research is, I didn't research why these people got sick. I researched how they got well and why they think they got well. And one of the reasons why I did that is because I can't really prove why they got sick. Is it because they were stressed for all those years? Is it because they were in a toxic marriage? Is it because they were abused when they were a kid? Maybe. Or is it because they went to a summer camp where they were swimming in a lake that, unbeknownst to them, had toxic chemicals in it, which is the case of one of the people I've studied, right? So we don't know what exactly leads to cancer, right? From a researcher standpoint, we know that certain viruses cause cancer. The HPV virus leads to cervical cancer. We know that certain bacteria causes cancer, the H. pylori bacteria with stomach cancer. We know that certain physical things like Agent Orange or H. pylori will lead to cancerous growth in the body. So instead of focusing on what caused your cancer, is it your emotions or what is it? The Radical Remission survivors that I study, they sort of drop that. They drop the task of figuring out where did this exactly come from? And they say, I'm here now. And this system of mine is very imbalanced because it has stage 4 cancer. So what can I do now to move towards health, to move towards movement, right? Energy movement. And if working on your emotions and your spiritual practice and the flow of your energy in your body, if that is considered like a tool in your toolbox, let's call it glue, right? Like, let's say it's glue to fix things. So if you're a teapot and it got knocked off the counter and broken into a million pieces by Agent Orange, right? By a chemical you were exposed to while you were serving in our army, right? How awful is that? You are now sitting with your broken body, your broken system. If you then use some glue from your toolkit to put this teapot back together, which is, in this analogy, I'm saying the glue is your emotional work and your spiritual practice. Is it fair to say the teapot broke because it didn't have enough glue in the first place? No, it broke because Agent Orange knocked it off. It doesn't really matter. The point is, you've discovered this incredible tool in your toolbox, this glue, and you are using it to repair your body piece by piece by piece, and you will become whole again. And that's where I think the power of doing this emotional work can lead to. It's this idea of like, okay, no matter what happened to me in the past, I can let that go. Okay, I was exposed to chemicals. Okay, I was exposed to a horrible trauma when I was 8 years old. Okay, I can't change that. It happened. Let me accept that. Let me process that. Let me release that. And let me get my glue, which is my positive emotions, the goals, my reasons for living, my spiritual practice, right? When you work on that emotional energy, you are repairing the damage from whatever may have caused the problem in the first place. And I think that's where real hope lies, right? That's where your real power comes in. It's like, okay, forget the past. We're here. Maybe you know why you're here. Maybe you don't know why you're here, but you're here. Move forward, right? Move forward, move towards health. And that's where the mind, body, spirit practices can take you. And that's encouraging.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for pointing out, because the people who feel me, right? There's the hear me, and then there's the feel me and the get me. People who feel me and hear me know that there's no shame in when I say, how did you attract this? Because you are the creator of your own reality. And for some people, like you said, nobody knows why you necessarily got it. And it wouldn't be really easy to research because it is perception, it is interpretation, it is how we process emotion. There's several layers and levels of how that all kind of comes together, which is kind of what I'm doing and studying with people. So that way we can take a path in order to choose the tools for them that will work for them. And it isn't going to work for everybody. And looking at, like, I have an event coming up a week from, well, 10 days from, I think, when this is going to publish. And one of the things we're doing is working on, based on Dr. Joe Taylor's work of whole brain living, working on creating new neural pathways in the parts of the brain that you don't have access to, which for most of us, it's the right brain. It's character 3 and 4. And doing physical things, doing experiential things that create and strengthen those neural pathways. So that's where, I have a huge toolbox, and it doesn't, I'm not on a search to like keep filling it. It just, when I stumble upon something that helps to fill it or helps to address one thing. So thank you for pointing that out for anyone that's new to me and maybe felt a little bit of shame or guilt. That's not how I look at life at all. When I first heard Esther Hicks channeling Abraham say, "You are the creator of your own reality," that changed my whole life. When I thought, I'm the creator of my own reality, well, then if I don't like something, I can change it. That's cool, right? Like, that's really cool. And for me, as an audio processor, as well as I'm a curious asking why, the work we do is we do go back, but we go back temporarily to just I do a diagnostic of what are your core wounds that led you to today, because regardless whether it's cancer, back pain, failed marriage, unhappy in life, you have a core wound that's literally, you're trying to get your needs met, but you're not aware of it because you don't know what it is. It's the same thing as diagnosing which physical ailment caused your cancer or created the environment where cancer was born. So it's a little more complex and comprehensive. It's almost like mirroring Nisha's 10-step terrain, but in the emotional piece. So yes, from a physical perspective, dealing with so many people for years with personal training and pain and injury, I always tell people to do the physical things first. Go to acupuncture, go to your chiropractor, do a detox, change your diet, get rid of inflammation. But if those things don't switch, if you've tried every physical thing and your issue is still here, it is not a physical issue. And that's where to me, but people will do everything they can to avoid the spiritual, emotional, and mental. The physical thing, they'll change their diet, they'll go get surgery, they'll take a pill because it's easier. And that's not everybody. So I know, so thank you for bringing that up, because I know, since you don't know me, and maybe we don't have that history of knowing that I'm so pro everybody's empowerment, which means that never take the victim role. It will never help you. If you can so your radical remission, radically accept that you're the creator of your own reality, because it gives you the power to make change. It gives you the power to know that whatever was created can be changed. And that's versus just some random negligent thing that happened. And so that's, I love the word radical for that reason: radical forgiveness, radical remission, radical responsibility, radical self-responsibility. So I know you're working on something right now. You're about ready to release something. Do you want to talk a little bit about the project and how it came to be and what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited about it. It is a new way to share the radical remission research and the radical remission stories, which is through film, which I'm a visual learner. So I have always wanted to put a camera on these incredible survivors and let the whole world see with their own eyes who these people are and hear from their own lips how they healed. So the Radical Remission docuseries comes out October 3rd at hayhouse.com. That's the publisher of my second book. And they're also the generous executive producers of this docuseries. I'm very grateful to Hay House. So on October 3rd, you'll see 10 episodes, each about an hour long, covering the 10 healing factors. So each episode covers one of these 10 healing factors for my research. And it features it goes in depth with 2 radical remission survivors sharing their healing stories from start to finish. And to me, I can't wait for the world to meet these 21 people. There's actually 21 because one of the episodes we feature 3 people, but these 21 souls are so beautiful in sharing the journey that they had. And I just can't wait for everybody to meet them. Like you talk about empowerment. That's actually our very first episode, which is actually available right now. If you go to hayhouse.com, they're showing it early before the release date. But in that episode, we highlight 2 survivors. One of them is the man who started it all for me, Shin Terayama, because I read his case back when I was in grad school and I was like, I want to meet this man. So I met this man for the docuseries. He happened to be traveling. I mean, I met him during my initial year of research when I traveled to Japan. But when we were doing the docuseries, he happened to be coming to the US. And I said, perfect, I will fly to Kansas City and meet you. He was here for a conference. And so now all of you get to meet him too. He's a stage 4 kidney cancer survivor who, talk about empowerment, right? He previously had been a very submissive Japanese businessman. He did everything his doctors told him. He did the surgery. He had a kidney removed. He did months and months of chemotherapy, and then all the radiation that was like legally allowable for a human being to receive. And it didn't work. And he was sent home on hospice care to die. And they said, you have 3 months to live. And he actually accepted that. And, you know, in a very passive way, he said, okay, I believe you. All right, this is it. My time has come. But from that place of an acceptance, he then moved to a place of gratitude where he was just grateful for every day that he woke up. He woke up, he's like, oh, I'm still alive. I get another day with my wife and kids. This is what a gift, right? So every day became this big, expansive moment of gratitude for him. And then he started just kind of in the dark, figuring out what felt better and what felt worse. And so he noticed that unless he was drinking bottled mineral water from glass bottles, the water from the tap tasted terrible to him. And so he said to his wife, you know, can you please go out and get me the mineral water? And he was in a wheelchair at this time, by the way. He had to wheel himself around their Tokyo apartment. So he started with the mineral water. And then he's like, I don't feel like eating. I'm just going to stop eating for a while. So he went on just like an intuitive fast for a week or two. He went up to watch the sunrise every morning because he was so grateful to be here for another day. He wanted to see the sun come up one more day. He started playing the cello again, which is something he had done as a teenager and through college, but he had given that up during his business years. So he just sort of empowered himself towards joy and towards gratitude, and use that intuitive knowledge to say, oh, I just want to eat really simple, like gently steamed vegetables. I don't want to, nothing too complicated, you know? And little by little, he started feeling better and better. And 3 months went by, and then 4 months and 5 months and 6 months. And soon he was meditating on the roof every morning with the sunrise. He like discovered his chakras accidentally. And he went back to playing the cello. He plays the cello every day. Just an incredible story of someone who had gone from being a very submissive patient and done everything the doctors told him, which unfortunately for him didn't work. And then sort of like a newborn baby, like being reborn, just found his way towards what felt better. And that permission to let himself be his own doctor for a while and empower himself led to full remission. 3 years later, he walked into his doctor's office and his scans were completely clear. They had no evidence of disease.
So hold on. I just want to catch up what you just said. He walked into the office. So he was out of the wheelchair.
Oh yeah. He was out of the wheelchair in like a month. But 3 years later, when he actually went for a checkup, first of all, his doctors were like, what are you doing here? Like, how are you alive? And then they gave him the CAT scan and said, there's no evidence of cancer anywhere in your body. This was 35 years ago. So, you know, he's now an 85-year-old grandfather and just celebrated his 50th wedding anniversary. So it's a beautiful story. And you can go meet him and see him in the docuseries right now. And I'm excited. I'm excited for people to visually and emotionally like be drawn into these true stories of people who've transformed so many areas of their life.
Is everybody who's in the film, in the docuseries, people that are in your books?
So some are from book 1 and some are from book 2 and some are from neither book. Some are people who came in through the website. So at radicalremission.com, you can share your healing story in 10 minutes or less. And that's very important to me because before that, there was no way for radical remission survivors to get their story out there. They had to try to convince their oncologist who had given up on them to spend like 40 hours writing up a scientific paper to send to a journal that might not even publish it. So yeah, some of the cases, like there's a gentleman Yokanon in episode 3, Releasing Suppressed Emotions, which you would like. Beautiful soul of a man. He was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in his early 40s, which is a very fatal blood cancer, usually kills you within a year. He was given 3 months to live. And the chemo, which was supposed to be palliative and just sort of maybe give him a few extra months, his body was unable to tolerate. So he was sent home on hospice care. Instead, his friends and family did a GoFundMe and raised a couple, thousands of dollars to send him to Mexico to an integrative clinic where he did the physical things. He did the herbs and supplements that were right for him. He did the diet change, all that jazz. But he also did emotional work, this is the part I know you'll like. He took those 4 weeks in Mexico and said, I got a lot of time on my hands here. Let me deal with the trauma of my childhood. This is a Black gentleman who was raised in a low-income neighborhood of Los Angeles. So he was exposed to tremendous gang violence, tremendous police brutality, and he was raised by a single mother because his father abandoned them. So he had deep emotional wounds towards his father, towards society and where he was, growing up. And he spent those 4 weeks really doing that shadow work of seeing like, wow, I really have a lot of anger here. I really have a lot of sadness and a lot of fear that I've been holding, and I didn't realize I was holding it. And he did a lot of, incredible emotional release work down there, and they gave him 3 months to live. And now it's been 5.5 years.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all your stories. Thank you for writing your books. Thank you for doing your research. Thank you for putting out a docuseries. I want to address different populations and what you have for them or what you'd like them to do. And let's say the first would be, obviously, if you are a radical remission survivor and you don't have your story out there anywhere, you want them to come and share their story on your site.
Definitely. Absolutely. We need to know that how often these cases are happening. And we can't know from the normal cancer statistics because most of these people don't go back to their doctors. And even if they do, if they had chemo sometime in the last 10 years, statistically, their remission will be attributed to the chemo that they had.
All right. So if somebody wants to, they just go to radicalremission.com and there's a place that they can put in their story.
Yep. They just click share your story and you can fill out with as much detail as you want. And we want to hear it. We want to hear about these cases.
Okay. And then, of course, there's the buy the books, Radical Remission, the first one, and Radical Hope, the second one. So buy the books, give them to everybody that you know that's dealing with this, even if they don't want to know about it. And I say that not to be so super pushy. You can a gesture of buying a book, whether they read it or not. I mean, you can at least feel good about sending the book. I mean, I did that. My parents, I had Dr. William Davis on. He's been on a million times. And, we talked about Undoctored. And I'm sure you're probably familiar with Undoctored. Anyway, so I bought the book for my parents. I know that they would never buy it themselves. They'd never search for that information, but I'm like, you know what? I can feel good about buying it. So if it's just sitting there and they get curious, one can only hope they open it up and possibly read some of it. So I feel that way about this book. Buy the book, whether they want it or not, just send it. And you don't have to follow up or push them to read it. Just let it be there. And if they one day feel inspired, at least it's there and ready for them to receive. So buy the book. Okay. Then the next thing would be what would you want people to do who are dealing with cancer, just got a cancer diagnosis, they've read your book, like what's the next step?
Well, I mean, I think probably the first step would hopefully starting October 3rd, or right now, if you want to watch episode 1, is watch the docuseries, because I don't know about you, but if I've gotten bad news, I don't necessarily feel like picking up a book and reading page after page, but I can like sit there with my Kleenex box and turn on the TV. So I made the docuseries, one, so that you all could meet these people that I have had the pleasure of meeting, but really because I wanted to give cancer patients something to do on the first night, right? On the first night, we're in the depths of that shock and that fear, to be able to sit and watch Shin Teriyama and Palmer Kippola and Bailey O'Brien and the other 21 incredible survivors and say, wow, okay, this is a dark time, but maybe there are things I can do. So to me, the docuseries is like for that first moment. And then of course the books. And then if you want to go deeper, we have, in-person workshops and virtual workshops led by the teachers that I've certified. So if you want to bring these 10 factors into your life, not as a promise that we're going to cure your cancer, because we cannot promise that. What we can promise is that practicing these 10 factors will significantly strengthen your immune system, and they'll make you have a better life. So, whether or not the cancer completely leaves your body, we can't promise that. But if you want to increase strengthen your immune system and increase your quality of life, we do have, the online courses and also the in-person workshops to go deeper if you want. And those are at radicalremission.com.
And of course, final what we're wanting everyone to do is to watch the docuseries, which you can also find at radicalremission.com, just out right now. So make sure to watch that, share that, make that a resource for people that don't read or don't listen to podcasts or right. Because everybody has their thing. Like I've got some people that they don't listen to podcasts, but they watch the videos, or they really love their books. They don't like audio, but they like books. This is why you have to take your content and put it into multiple different media and mediums so that you can reach more people, because not everybody is going to either listen or read. I love that you have offered that as a video. And just out of curiosity, how did I know you did the forward for Nisha's book, right? For metabolic approach to cancer.
I did. Yes. Nisha's a wonderful colleague of mine and now a friend. And she reached out to me after Radical Remission was published and said, I think we should talk. You know, I'm a Radical Remission survivor, because she herself is a Radical Remission survivor. And she's now, of course, done all that naturopathic training, and she's a doctor herself now. So, and we see that so often. You'll see it in the docuseries. So many of the Radical Remission survivors become cancer coaches, or, you know, emotional coaches, or naturopathic doctors, because they have seen what's possible when you clean up your life inside and out, and they want to give that gift of transformation to others. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see people like Nisha and people like you doing the transformational healing work that you're offering. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Thank you. I have to I'm the person that even when I was a trainer, I didn't have that I lost 100 pounds story. And it was like, what is my story? And the story is sort of part of me that's the forward thinker. I was a 21-year-old personal trainer, really harping on joint integrity and biomechanics. Who does that? I mean, nobody cared. Everybody just wants weight loss. And I'm like, yeah, but if you do stupid exercises now, in 20 years, you'll have no meniscus in your knees. But again, I'm that person who, if you tell me, don't do this, it's going to be bad for you. And I'm like, okay, I won't do it. And I know that I'm weird. I'm unique. Not everybody's like that. I have my own other lessons I learn in ways that, I keep repeating and have to, they're more emotional. But for me, when I see the pattern, and I think everybody can see it. Just look at someone in their 70s or 80s or even 60s that you see the state of their body, and you ask yourself, is this somebody who attended to their body, or someone who's angry and resentful and cranky and crunchy? Is that someone who had a happy life? And you're 20, 30 years out from that. You have a choice every day of what you do to create your future. And it doesn't start then, it starts now. And nothing that has been done almost can't be undone in some way, shape, or form. Everything is fixable in some way, or healable in some way, maybe replaceable, maybe not healable, but replaceable. So I don't know. I've just always been passionate about helping people find and not struggle or suffer, and just give information. And so it's been a really fun journey for me. I mean, we're here right now because I needed an outlet to talk about the things I was using. I was using quantum physics and law of attraction to attract my life and grow myself and get all the things that I wanted in life. But none of my personal training clients wanted to hear any of that. So I needed an outlet. I'm like, I need to do a podcast. I need to let people know. Actually, I didn't even care. I think my first disclaimer was, I don't care if anybody listens. This is just for me. It was completely for me. Self-love, self-ish, whatever you want to call it. And, but that show, when I rebranded, and it just took off, and people were like, oh my God, I want more of this, because it felt good. And I love that you talked about the first study, the first case study, and that every choice he made was about something that felt good. He was in his intuition. He was in his right brain. He was listening to his body, and he was responding based on what his body told him, not what his brain told him, not what logic told him, not what a doctor told him, not what his wife told him, but what he felt inside. And that has always been my position, that you're the creator of your own reality. And you are at the end of the day, the only person who knows what's right or wrong for you, and what feels good or what doesn't feel good. And I'm here to help empower people to do that. So I appreciate it. I've been chasing this woman for about 2 years to come on the show, because you've been so busy with the docuseries. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come and share that with us, because Absolutely. Whether you have cancer or not, these 10 steps are things that you want to do now, so that you never end up in that situation. And so no matter what ailment you have, or disease, or back pain, whatever, it's like looking at getting a diagnostic with your car. And it's so funny in that, especially men, like my dad takes pristine care of mechanics in the house. Right. But then, and I said that early on, I'm like, you take such good care of the car, and he's not negligent of his body, but it's almost like he'll look at the car and think, well, cause it costs money. if I make sure that these things are done, the car will always be optimal. I'll never have a problem. So I won't have to pay to fix something. And I'm like, it's the same for
Same
the
thing.
body. Why is everybody not seeing that? Like, you're not healthy if you're doing nothing. Health is a habit, not an event. It's not a one-time thing. It's what you do most of the time. It's the 80-20. So I appreciate it. Please share the show with anyone you know who has cancer, has been diagnosed, is a radical remission patient and survivor and has not shared their story. The more stories we collect, the more research Kelly can do, and the more we can change the medical system to acknowledge that these other factors are important, and hopefully change, that it's not about fighting against Western medicine. It's about it's about getting the message out there so people know they have choice and they're even aware that this is a thing. Because I think if you let people know that if they just listen to a doctor that doesn't know, they'll say, well, my doctor said I have to do chemo and radiation, and that's my only choice. Well, it's not your only choice, but you don't know that. And so we want to empower people to know they have choice and what the choices are. And then no matter which way you decide to go, that's on you. But
right. And also, I'm not against Western medicine at all. And the beautiful thing about these 10 factors that are from radical remission survivors is that they can actually be done right alongside chemosurgery and radiation. There's nothing, I don't think there's any oncologist out there who's going to say, yeah, you shouldn't be eating more vegetables. No, you shouldn't be reducing your stress. Bad idea, right? Like, any oncologist is going to say, if you want to eat more vegetables, take all these steps to reduce your stress, right? Let's just blanket all the emotional work with stress reduction, because they feel comfortable with that term. So stress reduction, eating more vegetables, exercise and movement, right? They're all going to be excited about that. And in fact, studies have shown that if you do those three things with chemotherapy, you're going to reduce your amount of side effects and increase the efficacy of the chemotherapy. So it's super smart to bring these things into whatever healing journey you're on. And the only one that oncologists take issue with, and Nisha will attest to this, is herbs and supplements. Rightfully so, right? Herbs and supplements are plant medicine. They can be very potent and they can cross-react. So that is the one factor of the 10 that really must be done under the guidance of a health professional. But if you have someone like Dr. Nisha or whoever your herbalist or integrative practitioner is, and then they can call your oncologist and say, great, we have her on these herbs, they're really helping. How about we stop them 2 days before chemo and resume them 3 days after? Most oncologists say, okay, that will prevent us from overtaxing the liver. And that's what you want to avoid, right? You don't want a cancer patient in the emergency room a day after chemo because they have liver toxicity. Well, there's an easy workaround. So all of these things, I think it would be great in 50 years to see them as part of the standard of care.
Definitely. Well, or whether they're part of the standard of care or the majority of people know that they exist, right? I think it's more of just the acceptance and the awareness and the education that we provide people to know they have a choice and that it isn't just one. And whether their doctor says it or not, they still can decide for themselves. I have a client I'm working with right now. I won't mention her name. She knows who she is. She's had breast cancer 3 times, and she may have a 4th, and it's a specific type, and and she knows what, and she's herself as a nurse, so she knows what that feels like. And when she was here for one of our groups, she said, well, she told the doctor, well, I'm just going to take it out. I'm just going to get it cut out. And of course, she's in my tribe. So of course, when she said that and I didn't say anything back, she looked at me and said, what? I know you're thinking something. I know you got an opinion. And I said, well, let's just review. If this is cancer for the 4th time, what possibly do we need to change? What's the message here? Because, you did standard of care, then you moved to alternative. All right. So now we're at possibly the 4th. And it was what I talked about in the beginning of the relationship to this whatever tumor or thing or cells as being outside of myself and the disconnection. It's the energetic. I'm making hand motions for anybody that's on the podcast. So the video shows me making these very, very clear hand motions of like disconnecting by pushing away from, right? And I said, why don't you consider, whether you get it out or not, why don't you consider it's your tissue, it's your body, and embrace it and love it and listen to it. And that plus some acupuncture, in 4 weeks, it has reduced and softened. And it's just a simple change in energetic, like mindset and interpretation. That's it. There's no other crazy thing. It's just, again, it's that energy, which is why I talked about that all of these physical things I think work better in a container of acceptance, of love, of trust, of surrender, of letting go of control, of deepening, again, that this is for me, not against me, that there is a growth coming for me. There's a change coming for me, and that it's a good change. And how do I listen to that? So thank you for that. And again, everybody check out radicalremission.com. Please make sure you check out the docuseries and share it with everybody, share this episode with everybody, because just people need to know what the choices are, whatever you decide. And so, Dr. Kelly, I really appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate Tara coming on and sharing her journey and how she works with you and your team. And I hope that if nothing else, everybody picks up a copy of Radical Remission, because it will inspire you no matter where you are in your health journey.
Thank you so much for having me, JJ. It was a great conversation.